Hello everyone and welcome back to Double Play Baseball. I'm Jack and he's Ryan, and in today's video we are going to be breaking down the Twins 2022 offseason as well as previewing their 2023 campaign where, Ryan, I think the Twins are going to look to compete in the AL Central because they made some moves to really put themselves in position. Do you want to break them down?
Yeah, obviously, let's start off with the big one. It was Carlos Correa. They added him after losing him twice. They get Pablo Lopez in a trade where they lost Luis Arraez. Joey Gallo they get on kind of a low-risk, high-reward type of deal. Christian Vasquez, good catcher. Michael A. Taylor to kind of fill in the gap, play a little bit center to keep Buxton healthy, hopefully, if he gets hurt. Donovan Solano as well. They lose Arraez, like I mentioned. Chris Archer, Dylan Bundy, Gary Sanchez, who I believe he doesn't have a team yet still, Miguel Sano, and then Gio Urshela. So kind of some well-known names in the mix there for adding and subtracting. Jack, which one do you think was the biggest one, either on the addition or subtraction side?
Yeah, I mean, Carlos Correa is the biggest one, but again, he was one of the players that was on the Twins last season, so I'll leave him for you because I really like the move of adding Pablo Lopez. It's kind of trading a strength that they had, which was infield depth, and Luis Arraez, a player that didn't exactly have a position for them last year, and I know he won the batting title, but they were able to add to what has previously been a weakness for the Twins in past seasons. Lopez was really good last year for the Marlins, only really struggled against the Mets, which brought his season numbers to a kind of just a slightly above average level, but he was really, really good against everyone else in the NL East and in the majors in general last year, and it makes the Twins rotation quietly very good in my opinion. You have Pablo Lopez now, he'll probably be the one, Sonny Gray, Joe Ryan, Tyler Mahle, Kenta Maeda, and then you think about the other names they have, they've got Chris Paddack on the AL, and then Ober, Balazovic, and Woods Richardson in the minors. The Twins are building actually what I think is going to be a very good rotation. I think they need a lefty, but I really like a lot of the guys they have, and Lopez is one of the players I was on last year for the Marlins, and I think he fits in really well with the Twins.
I'm going with Correa here. I think that's the biggest one, like you mentioned, because it puts them as a potential playoff team like they were last year, kind of in that conversation. I think if you look at they add Correa and don't add Lopez, I think we still say that they're a potential playoff team. But if they add Pablo Lopez and lose Correa, I don't think I would be on them in the playoff hunt. So I think adding Correa is the biggest one. And you're right, they had him last year, but the biggest thing was him and Buxton were kind of struggled with injury last year. So if you're able to get both of them healthy, that's two superstars on your team and two guys that are going to help you be in that playoff conversation. And maybe it's a dangerous team where they're candidates to make a playoff run if they get there. And Pablo Lopez helps about that. I kind of talk about all the time. The top of a rotation is so important, especially in a playoff series, because if you can throw out two aces and win games 1 and 2, you're gonna, whether it's a 3-game or a 5-game series or a 7-game series, you're gonna have a very, very good chance to win that series. So Pablo Lopez is definitely important to the team, and like you said, it got rid of Arraez, who did win the batting title, but it was a little bit of a surplus, especially when they kept Correa. So they do definitely improve there in the rotation. I like their rotation as well, but I think Correa was the biggest one here.
Yeah, I think when you talk about Correa, we do have to mention the circumstances that did bring him back to Minnesota. You don't know with the health, and really we have zero clue because the Giants and the Mets both looked at him, signed him, said, actually, no, I don't want him. I don't like how this is going to play out down the line. But it is, I think, still worth noting that the Twins have a player now that they do believe in Carlos Correa's health. Whether he's able to stick at shortstop long-term, whether his legs are going to hold up long-term, we're still going to figure that out. But talking specifically for this season and the moves that it makes to help the Twins lineup right now, I'm a really big fan of bringing back Correa. I've been on Carlos Correa's hype train for a couple of years now, and I think he fits in really well with this Twins team. And it was really important, I think you're right, for them to bring him back, because if they didn't bring back Correa, team would kind of feel dead in the water, in my opinion. And I wouldn't have been thinking about them the way that I am currently, at least, in a big way. I feel like bringing him back signaled, hey, we're still trying to win this year, and hey, we still can as well, because I do really like their lineup. To get into a grade, I did make a TikTok earlier this offseason saying that the Twins had the most underrated offseason of any team in baseball, and I'm going to stick by that. I'm giving it an A-, and I only gave out 2 A's, at least so far, to the Mets and the Yankees. The Twins are right there with an A-. I really like the move of bringing in Correa, as I mentioned. Love Pablo Lopez. And then some of these other ones, Christian Vasquez, it's hard to find a starting catcher in free agency, and they might have actually done that, taking him from the Astros, and where previously he was a Red Sox. I like the move of Michael A. Taylor. Even though he doesn't hit very well, he's going to play good defense if Byron Buxton is in center field. And if that allows Buxton to play DH a little bit more and stay healthy, I really like that move. And Joey Gallo is a player who I'm going to talk about a little later down the line, but I like the move of bringing Joey Gallo to Minnesota. He's played in New York, he's played in Los Angeles the last couple of years, and I think it's time for him to have another home where a little less pressure, and we're going to get into what I think Joey Gallo can do this season a little bit later.
For my grade, I actually only want a B here. Like, the way I've been thinking about it is a C is you basically have the same team. C minus get a little worse, C plus you get a little better, and you work from there. So I think they got a few steps up better from last season, but I don't think it was a crazy offseason for them. You're right, there's a lot of guys that benefit their team, and obviously you get Carlos Correa, Pablo Lopez to be your one starter. So it was definitely one of the better off seasons, and they get way better if they stay healthy. And I think that's something you'll point to at the end of this season. If they're able to find success, I think it'll be because they stay healthy. And you could say that for a lot of teams, but I think this Twins team, especially when you look at kind of the stars like a Correa or Buxton, who are constantly injury riddled, that's where you're going to point if they find success. So one of the better off seasons, in my opinion. I think it earns them a B.
I think I agree with your scaling of, getting a little bit better, getting a little bit worse. The way that I look at it is, if I take in circumstances as well. So I didn't come into this offseason thinking the Twins were going to get much done in free agency. I thought they were going to lose Correa and maybe not add too many other pieces. And when they realized, hey, Correa is back on the market, we can't lose him this time, they went out, they got him, and then they also realized they want to capitalize on having Correa by making that Lopez trade. And I also take into account, how much the team has to give up to make the moves that they did. And I thought that they got pretty good value on all the guys. It's a low risk, high reward deal for Joey Gallo. Correa, they got on a steep discount considering, the other teams that signed him didn't want him. And some of the other moves, I didn't think they had to give up too much to get Pablo Lopez. So I take into account value as well, which is why I think I gave it a little bit of a loftier grade, and just my expectations, because I didn't think that the Twins were going to be able to get much done this offseason.
You talk about expectations. Now let's move on to, what are you expecting for the 2023 season?
The Twins are going to win the AL Central, and I feel confident in saying that, and you can clip it right now and show it to me at the end of the season. I'm feeling confident, and I'm buying into the Twins Kool-Aid. I'm sipping it, and I think that the Twins are going to win the Central. I love the pitching staff. I really like the lineup, hoping that Buxton and Correa stay healthy, and all the other players in the lineup as well. I'm a fan. I like Jose Miranda. I like just a lot of the other guys around the lineup. Christian Vasquez is a player that I like. Max Kepler is one of the best defensive outfielders. I've already mentioned I like Joey Gallo this season. I'm buying into the Twins. Their bullpen, I also really like, especially when comparing it to certain other teams in the American League. It may be a lofty expectation, but it's kind of a bold take, but I'm saying that the Twins are your 2023 AL Central winner.
I say pump the brakes here, buddy. I think you're going too far on that. And you mentioned this to me earlier this offseason when you were making that TikTok that you mentioned. So go check out the TikTok. But I've got them as a third wildcard team at best. And I'm kind of doing my record predictions, and I'm not going to spoil anything. But Twins fans aren't going to like me. I'll say that much. And I think you're not going to like me. This is the Central. I think both Centrals could be where we're going to have some pretty different record predictions and playoff predictions. So I think they're third wildcard team at best. And give you a little insight, I think they're the third team in the division.
I'm not saying that they're going to be amazing, because if the winner of the Central didn't get an automatic bid in the postseason, their record that I'm at least projecting them for right now would be a third wildcard team anyway. But that's what I think about the AL Central. I don't think this is a very strong division. I don't think I have the Twins record winning any other division in baseball. But considering that it is the AL Central, a year like the Guardians had last year, or a year like I think that the Twins can have this year, even though it might be a third wildcard team for teams in other divisions, you don't have to do much to win the AL Central most years. So that's at least to give you a little insight on what I'm expecting record-wise. But I'm not sure. I mean, I think it's the easiest division to win. I think of all the divisions I had, the Twins having the lowest record of a single division winner. So I'll just put that out there.
I'm not going to get too much into it, but I think you're underselling the Guardians, and we'll talk about that later in the week with our Guardians season preview. But I think the Guardians, they got better this offseason, and they won 90-some games last season. So I think to say, I mean, maybe it could be just because how stacked the top of the AL West and the AL East are. I don't have my draft predictions for records in front of me, so maybe I have the same thing where they would be the third wild card team, record wise, if you didn't get an automatic bid like you were talking about. But I still think it's going to be they're going to be one of the better teams, the Guardians, that is, and I don't know if I believe in the Twins like you do.
Yeah, I mean, this is the boldest. I think there's another team that we talked about early in the offseason that I think we were actually both pretty high on that wasn't very good last season. And I know the Twins were under 500 last year, but I've kind of staked my claim on them as this is my bold team for the year. It's like if someone came out last year and said, I think the Orioles are going to be in the wild card race for a really long time. There's one of those teams every year where they do take a big jump. And I think that this year, at least for me, that team's going to be the Twins. And I've said it all off season. I didn't want to change it now. I'm feeling confident about it. I think they can win the Central. It really does all depend on health. Not all depend on health, but they're one of the teams that's banking on health the most, because if you lose a Buxton or you lose a Correa, the lineup does take a slight step back. But the Twins have always been the team where we say they can hit the cover off the ball, but can they pitch? And this is the year where I really believe they're building a strong rotation. And you look at Tyler Mahle, a guy that some teams were thinking about adding as a 2-starter last year, and right now he slots in as the Twins 4. And Kenta Maeda has had a very good spring training. He slotted in as the 5, and they've got pitching prospects as well. I like arms in the bullpen, Yohan Duran. I'm liking what the Twins are building, and we'll talk about the Guardians, as you mentioned, later this week, but I'm not as high on them as I think most people are.
Well, there you go. What do you have for their bold prediction for this upcoming season?
Yeah, I mentioned Joey Gallo earlier. I just think he bounces back as a well above average hitter. I think I would go maybe above a 120 WRC plus, where we've seen him have seasons as high as 144. But with the shift ban, which who actually knows, because of spring training, we saw the left fielder get moved into right field. So we'll see what's happening with Joey Gallo. But I think he will get more hits added because of the shift. I think the new environment is really going to help because he was in those pressure-filled cities of New York and Los Angeles. And last time when he was in Arlington, he didn't feel as much pressure, was able to hit the ball well as a Ranger. I think he bounces back to those levels, maybe not all the way, which I think it was in 2019, where he was just off the charts incredible, but I think that he bounces back to be a well above average hitter, and he's too good to be as bad as he has been in the past couple seasons. So maybe it's not the most bold, because I think he's a popular re-breakout pick, but I like Joey Gallo this season a lot.
I'm on another player who maybe it isn't bold, very bold, but I think Byron Buxton plays 100+ games and gets 5+ WAR on the season, and those are two things I don't know about. Don't know about the WAR when he last did that, but he hasn't played over 100 games since I think it was 2017, and even then it wasn't very far over 100. So 100 games doesn't sound bold, but for Byron Buxton it is, and it'd be a huge boost to my fantasy team, because I got him from a trade with you last season. So I think I'm believing in Buxton, and maybe that's my bias, because I need to believe in him for my fantasy team to play well. And I think I've said this every year for the last couple of years. I just want to see Buxton do well, and that's it's a little bit of bias in my bold prediction. Like you said, he hits the cover off the ball. He's 5-tool player. He's so exciting to watch. So I just want to see him on the field.
He's only played in 95 or more games one time in his entire career. That was in 2017, where he played 140 games. He played 39 of 60 games in 2020. Last year, he got up to 92, and those 92 games were something else. He had 28 home runs in the 92 games that he played. If he can play 100, he's automatically an MVP candidate. I think the Twins need him to play 100 or more games in order to make the playoffs, but if they can get him and Correa to be relatively healthy, I'm not saying that Buxton has to go out there and play 162, but if he can be relatively healthy, this Twins squad is going to be very dangerous, at least lineup-wise. And that's why I mentioned the Michael A. Taylor signing, where everyone's kind of, normally you look at Michael A. Taylor signing to a team, it's like, another. They added a guy that can play defense but can't really hit. But if that puts Byron Buxton at DH for some more games this year, and they kind of pull it back, say, we know, Byron, your outfield defense is great, but we need you to play 140 games again. I think that would be big. If Byron agrees to it and plays DH, that could be really huge for someone who, as we mentioned, his health has struggled recently.
Well, let us know, Twins fans. What do you have them doing this season? Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to leave a comment down below. Like this video, subscribe. Who do you agree with here? I'm guessing it's not me. Are they going to be a playoff team? Are they going to win the Central? Or are they going to be closer to that fringe wildcard team like I think? Let us know down below. Make sure you like and subscribe. Check out the entire AL Central this week to see where your division rivals stack up against you. But for now, we've been Double Play. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.